Well, welcome to MOKSsports this week. My name is Jay Nauer. It's an absolute pleasure and blessing to have you here with us today. And I tell you, I am very privileged to have the head basketball coach now, of the women's basketball program at Baker University. That's Andy Kelly, who was just recently named to this position a few weeks ago. Andy formerly was the head coach at the women's basketball program here at the University of St. Mary for several productive years. Since he's been to St. Mary, he's produced 89-64 record. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Coach. His team was KCAC tournament champion in 2023 and KCAC tournament runner-up in 2024 and made the NAI national tournament 3 times in the last 4 years. In 3 seasons, he's won over 20 games, and that culture certainly, that result of that culture is I've put him in a situation where he could make I think, a good decision to go to where, well, he's going back home and coach where he came from at Baker University. And I am excited to introduce here Coach Andy Kelly, now coach here at Baker's University. Well, thanks for joining us here on MOKSsports this week, Coach.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad we can keep chatting, even though I cross county lines on us. So I'm glad we can meet up and do this.
Well, one thing beautiful about MOK Sports, I mean, we've got quite the area we can cover. So you're still in that area, sir. You haven't moved out of the area for us. But I just want to kind of go over his record a little bit. You heard me mention it too, Coach. I remember I was at University of St. Mary for a while before you came along. And I think we may have had a 19-win season in the last 10 years before that, but I don't remember that, any others. There's 1 or 2 teams that I would say we could say, well, University of St. Mary may have had a good team, but for the most part, it's been a challenging situation. And it just became a situation where you were actually excellence in great competition provided by these teams that you had. I know there's one or two uphill and downhill climbs you had to make, Coach, but for the most part, you created a culture there, and that's something that, and it's something that we were looking at as broadcasters, like, well, there's a normal situation, you think, and then you think, well, there could be a next level, and I think that's where you took a coach. So certainly I've enjoyed that as a broadcaster, and I know for you, it had to be gratifying to see where you took that program.
Yeah, I mean, took it over and really had no clue what we were getting into. I knew that the history wasn't great there. I knew that I think there was 4 winning seasons in school history. And 2 of those, I think there was a 19-win and an 18-win season, both under Bruce Erickson, who was a few coaches before me. And yeah, I mean, we kind of, I'd say, caught lightning in a bottle in year 2, really. You mentioned culture a lot. That was pretty much the entire task. I remember my first time seeing them play open gym and being like, talent's not the problem here. What's the story? And there was just some connectedness that we had to create and provide for the kids. And I think that once we turned the corner in that aspect, I think the rest of it took care of itself. We got the right kids in year 2 and got some leaders into good positions, and we were able to kind of put the pieces together. And like you said, do things that just now that I'm here and able to kind of reflect back a little bit on it, just doing things that had never been done, and just the expectation level change, I think, was the biggest thing for me, especially stepping over, to here now to a program that hasn't had a ton of success the last few seasons. Just feeling what our expectation levels were at St. Mary, and then sensing what it is here at the current moment. It actually makes me even more proud of what we accomplished when we were there seasons.
I think, we mentioned the talent really wasn't the problem going in. And like you say, I think the second season proved that a little bit for you. I mean, we'll talk about that second season with a 21-11 record. And you were able to also get some talent as well to help accommodate that. And then you back that up with a 25-game winning season and quite the ride. Maybe the best team that you had here. But I will say this. I think what was even more, valuable to me is the way you came back in the 25-26 season after having a challenging season the year before, and with talent that was pretty good. You just had your challenges, and then there's also some pretty good teams in that conference too at that time. But coming back here this last year, 25 and 26, and made the return to the NAIA national tournament. I think to see that, to see even, I mean, it's one thing to build consistent winners, it's one thing, but to come back as a coach and rebuild to get the team to where it was even last year.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. You and I've talked about it in post game interviews and preseason interviews, and you're right. I think for me, it was incredibly gratifying for me as a coach to not feel like we just got lucky with a couple of really good recruits and pieced it all together for 2 years to kinda hit what we would consider to be a rock bottom. That team was, you mentioned talent wasn't the issue. I think we were 2-9 in games decided by 5 points or less, so we kinda found one of those
Right.
weird years, where we just came out on the wrong side of a lot of those, and then, yeah, to kinda reevaluate, there's a lot of things that contributed to that. I think I got lazy with some of my habits and the discipline and the things that we held so true the previous seasons. But then to come back this year, the best team we've had in school history was that 25 season, but the most satisfying season of my career was this last season for sure. And to come back and just make our way to the tournament at an at-large berth, not do it by winning a tournament as a crazy or getting in an automatic seed, but doing it by just our resume on its own. That was a really gratifying year for me to prove that we can do it through any circumstance.
You bet. And I also enjoyed, certainly as a local broadcaster at the high school level too, myself, and I've seen a lot of, did have an opportunity to see one or two of your players there that you recruited, but there was certainly a local flavor to your recruiting too. I think it helped create a consistent winner, certainly for this program.
Yeah, we've always wanted to have kids that are from the area. We've always preferred to cast our net as local as possible, just because we want to have support. We want to have fans and people that can follow us and track us and be there. And there's so many good programs and there's so much talent in this area that you don't have to go too far. And we've always found pieces from outside of our net, obviously, but you're right. And we did it with a lot of local kids, a lot of kids that we had connections to and contacts with, over the years. And it makes it fun when you can see as many families. My first year on senior day, there was a handful of kids that had no family there because they were coming from all over the country. And then to see the vast, crowds we had, even last year, I felt like between Mary and Jay, there were 100 people down there walking on the floor for senior night, and just to be able to do it with, people that could support us and travel with us and be around it, just made it even better.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned when you came into St. Mary, we came off the COVID year. Correct me if I'm wrong. We came off a COVID year, and I don't know if that was a good year for really anybody. But then, I don't know. There were some coaching changes made at St. Mary, just a lot of them in a short period of time. You mentioned you found some talent there when you showed up there, but I'm just kind of wondering what your thoughts were when you walked through the door.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I
Right.
knew that I really wanted to be a college basketball coach, and that was the opportunity that was given to me. And like I said, that we had a lot of talent and a lot of ability, just zero connectedness and zero desire to put anything about the team before themselves. And so it wasn't hard to really find out why they weren't very successful, but it made the fix, I would say, somewhat easier in some aspects, because it wasn't like we were just
Yeah.
walking into gyms massively outclassed. And so once we had some roster changes, we had some kids, not leave the team, and we had some things change. And once we kind of got to our core group in that second semester, I think it's been a long time. I think we were 3-12 at Christmas break, and we ended that season, I think, 10-18. So I think we finished the year 7-6, and we were really competitive in those last 13 games. And that was kind of where that finish gave us a lot of momentum. And in fact, we finished our regular season. We beat Friends on our senior night by 20, and they were, I think, second or third in the conference, and we just blasted them. And that was kind of like I think the spark that kind of gave us some momentum through. And like, we're making progress here, and we're a couple pieces away from putting it all together. And I think that next year obviously is where we saw that kind of come together.
Yeah, and certainly, we gotta go back, certainly to the high points. I mean, you gotta think that 23-24 team certainly, at a very high level. Well, throwing the 22-23, of course, your 3 NAI teams are certainly at a high level. But, what are some of your best memories at University of St. Mary, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think, winning the conference tournament that year too, really, honestly, winning at Tabor to open that tournament, that was, like, the biggest monkey off the back for this program. We went there and just we kinda put it on them and, ran away with it in the second half, and we had lost by, like, 30 there less than a month before that game. We had just
Yeah, I
gotten
remember that.
Yeah, we had just gotten put down, and so to go back, respond, win that one, go to Sterling feeling like we have nothing to lose. They're the number 8 team in the country, and, we've already proven all we needed to prove, and, whatever happens, happens, and, to watch the stress flip in that game and to watch, us hang around long enough and turn that team was unbelievable from Sterling, and
Was.
to make them start to feel nervous and start to panic and the ball's being thrown out of bounds, just watch what they did to so many teams, almost flip upside down on them. And then to get to Hartman and just watch them play so free and so confidently and just have control of that game pretty much from the jump. So that was obviously incredible. The year after, even though it was a loss, I'd say the home game against Tabor, both teams were 11-0, was probably the loudest gym I've been a part of for a women's
Yeah,
basketball game in my career. That environment was incredible. Lost by one in overtime, crazy game. That was the result hurt that one, but that was like the look how far we've come moment. Playing in front of 10 people my first year too, having standing room only in the balcony, there for that kind of a moment. That was really cool, obviously. The national tournament that year, we put together a great performance against another top 10 team, just came up on the wrong end. Uh, we've had a lot of them. And then last year was the first time we swept Tabor in school history, and that's been the best program in the KCAC for the last 20 years.
I would agree. I would agree with that.
To find ways to win. I mean, they ended up in the tournament championship again because it's what they do, and so to end up, to knocking them off, even the year before, even the 13 and 16 team, we went to Kansas Wesleyan and knocked them off, as the number 1 team in the conference at the time, and so, yeah, I mean, countless memories and opportunities, but just, taking teams to national tournaments and spending time with them and getting to kinda, like I said, just shift all those expectations to where when we don't make the national tournament, it feels disappointing is just hilarious to think about when you flip back to a program that, had never been to one before.
Never been to one. Yeah, you bet. Certainly, what I remember as a broadcaster, like you mentioned, the following that happened as a result. I mean, to see the gym full and the place was loud, and um, tournament games that we had there, just amazing. Certainly to see the following they had, and not just from the families, the local area, I think as well was just made it just awesome for that. And for me as a broadcaster, it made me. I remember when we used to bring our own crews in very early in our broadcast opportunity we had with the University of St. Mary, and we were like, do we have a chance? Kind of thing. And I know that as time went on, as the culture developed, we felt very confident that if not, we were going to be very competitive, even if we had to take a loss. And also the following just made it something that I'll never forget as a broadcaster. But I got to be selfish here and talk about a memory that I'll never forget that you were involved with. It was, when I'm sure you remember this moment, but you came up for your normal interview, halftime interview, getting ready for, or you want to talk about the game that you had, right? Because it's halfway of the boys' game. And anyway, I was like, okay, I can't remember if you won or lost. Okay, forget about that. But anyway, you come up there and I see Macy Walker walking up with you, and I'm thinking, okay, we're going to have Macy. We're going to interview her for whatever reason. And you're standing there, and I'm like, okay, well, we got Coach Andy Kelly. We'll talk about the game here. We got Coach, and then you interrupted me, which I'm like, what? You interrupted me, and you go, hey Jay, we got something we want to present you with, and it was a plaque of a player's parent. I think it was Macy's dad created a plaque to give to me with praying hands. I'll never forget it because just a little backdrop. My wife passed away like let's see, it was 2020. Well, she died in April of 2022, and then the year went by, and I didn't tell anybody from there because I just like to show up and do my job, right? I told Macy, I told her about my story. I lost my wife like 10 months ago, and she didn't know that, and I was very grateful. Anyway, that was just a great memory, and it was a little bit orchestrated by him. But I didn't know what to think about it. And it turned out to be one of the best moments I ever had since doing this for, I don't know, I've been doing broadcasting now for 24 years and been with the University of St. Mary since 2007. So it was one of the biggest moments I ever had with the program. And coach, thank you for being a part of that.
And all I'll give the lion's share of the credit there to the Walker family. They were big on that gesture, and they were trying to figure out a way to present it to you. And I was like, Mace, let's just go up there at halftime and lay it on him. So hopefully we didn't throw you off for the second half too much there. But we like I said, they were really adamant on making that happen and finding a way to get a hold of you. And I figured probably the best way to do it would just be to come on up and rip the Band-Aid off. So yeah, and like I said, they're great kids, but also, I think having you be, I'll have games where, either you wouldn't be there or wouldn't call it, and my parents text me be like, "We need Jay back on the call. We miss having Jay on the call." So, it's a it you kind of become one with the group as it goes through. So, absolutely. But like I said, that was you can give Macy and her family all the love for that one.
Yeah, yeah, well, certainly you you helped orchestrate it, and like I mentioned after it happened, I says, "Guys, I can't talk for 2 minutes now." So that was kind of a humorous moment, but no, it was a fantastic gesture, and I'll never forget it. And for that, I thank you. It's pretty amazing. But anyway, Coach, I just want to say, hey, best wishes for you at Baker. And like I say, I've got a tie or two there at Baker. My granddaughter actually plays volleyball there, so hopefully maybe I'll run you in the hallway or maybe in the gym sometime or whatever. But I just wanted to say hey, thanks for all the great memories at University of St. Mary. And hey, if your team does well, we might talk again. Okay, here on MOK Sports this week. And Coach, it's just been a blessing and a pleasure. And I tell you what, I know the university was blessed to have you there, and we're certainly looking forward to moving forward, certainly with the culture you left in place as you left, and we wish you all the best of Baker University.
Yeah, I mean, I'm incredibly, like I said, you mentioned that earlier, grateful to have a chance to go back to my school and my alma mater and take over the place that, kind of made me fall in love with this whole thing and gave me the expectation and the belief that I carried where we're going to be at. Ironically, first off, they're in incredibly good hands with Coach Scupa. She's going to do a great job there, and I'm very, very happy for her to be able to keep, the momentum moving forward. Ironically, her first game is going to be against me here at Baker next year, so I scheduled that
I
one
did not
poorly.
even look at that.
And so, but with that, we did turn we kickstarted the KCAC Heart Challenge we used to do back years ago with Benedictine,
Yeah, yeah.
Baker, St. Mary, and Ottawa, and so I will actually be playing at St. Mary every other season now. So if you can find your way to a non-con game, you'll get
Okay.
to you'll get to call a Scupa and me battle back at the Ryan in the fall of 2027. So,
Yeah, that's great. And that's great. And certainly, as a competitor, everybody understands the situation, but I know there's a lot of
of course.
people that are grateful, and I'm one of them. That you came around, and certainly we wish you the best. And yeah, I'll see if I can make it over there if my schedule's open or whatever. But or if I see you in the hallways of Baker going to one of my granddaughter's volleyball games, I'll make sure to give you a hi and hello and a handshake and maybe a hug. And certainly, Coach, it's been great to work with you. It certainly have.
I'll leave you with, I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity I was given there too. And so they hired a underqualified golf coach. And so, none of this happens back here if it wasn't for them giving me a chance there too. So I'll always have a lot of love there, and with Scuba being there, it's always going to be a place that, I keep eyes on. So I do appreciate, all your work with us and your time, and come on down to Baldwin and I'll be sure to be waiting for you.
All right, Coach Andy Kelly, now head coach of the University of Baker University at Baldwin City. There in the Heart of America Conference. We'll be keeping his eyes on him. Thank you, Coach, for joining us today. And I tell you what, we wish him nothing but the best. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.